Let's get started here. Um, Once again, I assume everyone can see my screen and can hear me without issue. Once again, this is Mark Young with XLM Solutions, and today we're going to be having what I'd say a roundtable around 3D experience. I encourage everyone to speak up and put in your inputs, whether you want to do that through the chat or the questions and answers, or raise your hand and I can unmute you. But the goal of this is to keep this as an interactive discussion, though I'm here to monitor it and bring up various topics to discuss, to facilitate the conversation. Quick overview. Let me also do this. Turn on my web camera here so you can see me. So hello, everyone. I am Mark Young with XLM Solutions. I also have my colleague on the line, Elon Majar, and we're the founding partners of XLM Solutions. We consider ourselves a leading PLM solution provider. We've been around since 2005, so we're going on almost our 20th year in providing services around PLM, and mainly providing services around the Dassault PLM products, obviously including 3DEXPERIENCE. We have, conducted, tons of projects and bring years of experience to the table around PLM and 3DEXPERIENCE. Always staying on the forefront of best practices, both in the industry and from a technical point of view, and conduct all aspects of PLM services, everything from site assessments, general implementations, data migrations, customizations, integrations, such as integrations to ERP, and then training and support. If anyone has I assume everyone can hear me. Someone mentioned they cannot hear me, but that might be an audio issue on their side. If anyone has any special topics that they want to talk about, again, please put that, as a question to chat or raise your hand. And we'd be happy to explore those topics. But otherwise, we propose some key topics to talk about. If you're aware of it, we actually did a survey a couple of weeks ago, and we built these topics based on results from the survey. But as mentioned, if anyone has specific topics, please put them in the chat and we're happy to talk about them. So today, this is not necessarily the order, but we'll be talking about data migrations, collaboration best practices, customizations from a widget and a data model point of view, and then discussing key roles. I've changed the order of this a little bit based on some of the feedback. So the first topic is, different roles within 3DEXPERIENCE. We've listed some of the key roles here, being CSV, XEN. So CSV is Collaborative Industry Innovator, and that is the key role everyone gets when they sign up for the platform. It's the minimum role you need to be able to access the platform. And then some of the other roles are a lot of the key roles. So there is XEN or Zen, which stands for Product Release Engineer, and that's really your BOM management role, the role that is used to create and manage bill of materials. It has been expanded to get a little bit more into the manufacturing realm of things, where you can identify alternative parts, you can associate raw materials to parts, You know, obviously associate make or buy characteristics.
Mark, just to jump in here and interject, this is Elon. Just to minor correction, the raw material and material is actually a separate add-on role called specification manager. I don't remember off the top of my head the trigram, but it's another role specifically to managing like non-discrete quantities. I mean, your engineering BOM is normally based off instances, so that will be always an integer. But if you have raw material, the materials from the CAD and the actual specific raw materials, let's say you have a pipe and then you CAD it or bend it in a certain way, you know, that calculation is available on top of Zen, but requires the specification manager, which is a recent role from 2023, just to comment on the raw material.
Yeah. So to be clear and to add to that, yes, you need that role to create the raw material, but you can assign the raw material through the Zen product release engineer role. There's the PAU role, or 3D product architect. That's you know, very similar to Zen, where you can do a lot of BOM manipulation. You can visualize the 3D CAD, but you can also move CAD around, kind of move the CAD geometry around without having the actual CAD license. It doesn't move it to an exact place, but it allows you to from a, let's say, non-CAD user, do some moving, and then have the actual CAD users do the actual move and put the mates in and everything that a CAD, let's say, designer or engineer would do. But it gives you the ability to kind of move that 3D matrix of CAD or positioning around. Change manager allows you to obviously perform changes, whether that be change actions, you know, engineering release or engineering requests. You know, probably could get into a lot of detail of different engineering changes and how you want to do them in the platform. They can be done through change manager. Some people use collaborative tasks to enable change. Some initiate changes from issues within the platform. But the change manager role lets you see actual changes and lets you put objects onto a change, which then can, you know, revise them and or release them. MFM is the application that kind of bridges the gap between an engineering BOM and an MBOM. It lets you, you know, associate engineering items to MBOM items and then manipulate that MBOM or rearrange the engineering BOM into an MBOM that, you know, fits your manufacturing process, you know, whether that be creating phantom items or creating kits or rearranging the order of how things would get manufactured. Then I called this UEX, where X could represent different roles, with two of the main roles being UE5, which represents CATIA V5, or UES, which represents SolidWorks. But the UE roles are basically the powered by connectors, and I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with the powered by term, but they're connectors to integrate the CAD, you know, various CAD software, both mechanical CAD and electrical CAD, to 3DEXPERIENCE. So any CAD you want to integrate to 3DEXPERIENCE will be most likely done through a UE role, except for CATIA V6 or CATIA 3DEXPERIENCE. That is its own role. But if it's a besides the old version of CATIA, if it's a you know, non-CATIA version, then it would be connected through the UE roles. And in the latest releases, a lot of new functionality has been added to the various roles. For example, in UES, which is the SolidWorks connector, there's been a lot of functionality to handle design libraries, you know, toolbox parts, and different libraries that you may be managing within your organization. And then finally, for to be very specific, for cloud-based customers, this role, all these roles that I mentioned work for both cloud and on-premise. And if we need to have a discussion around the differences between the two, I would be happy to. But the BPM, all these roles besides the bottom one work on both on-premise and on cloud. But the bottom role, BPM, is just for cloud, and this is basically called business process management. And basically, it's a workflow engine, a very powerful workflow engine to allow customers to manage any type of process they have within the system, and it can actually run standalone from 3DEXPERIENCE as well. So whether it's a change management process, a simple expense report review process, a sales cycle process, you can map and manage those processes in that tool. And it has a lot of power where you can have what's considered users tasks, where think about a Visio diagram that you create where a user needs to do something, an automated task where the system automatically does something. You can control decisions, whether it should go, if yes, do this, if no, do that, parallel processing, etc. So it's a very powerful, basically process management software. And if anyone's interested in it, please, let us know. We're happy to dive deeper into it, but we just wanted to mention that on the list today because it is something that's new, and we see can provide really a lot of value for on-cloud customers in managing business processes, whether that's engineering change or non-engineering related. Unless people have points about these bullets, but I kind of talked about what the role is, when you would need it, who needs it, and how it's used. So I'm not going to really focus on those questions, but someone did type in a question into chat and asked, how do you see companies connecting 3DX platform to the to ERP or MRP systems? And I would say, again, we talk about cloud and on-premise customers. So for on-premise customers, there's many different ways to integrate to MRP or ERP. There are, you can customize the system through triggers and other mechanisms that, based on an event, it can send and connect, send data to the MRP or ERP system. So for on-premise customers, there's a lot of openings and triggers to do that. Now, I always tell people, we here at XLM are experts on 3DEXPERIENCE. We're not always experts on the MRP software. So, we need to work with someone on the MRP software to open it or provide web services that when we want to send information, the MRP software side of it is listening for it and can basically suck that information in. For on-cloud customers, you don't have all the openings that you have on-premise. But with on-cloud, and actually this works for on-premise too, there's a software module called EIF, Enterprise Integration Framework, and that can be used to basically listen to events in 3DEXPERIENCE, such as I'm releasing my bomb, and then once that happens, the EIF software can grab the information and then again transfer it to MRP. And that EIF is designed in such a way where you can kind of write your own connector, or you can use a third-party connector out there to do the transfer. Now, I don't want to oversimplify it and say that it's you know, you just buy a third-party software and everything works. There's still configuration that needs to be done. And another favorite saying is the devil's always in the details of what do you want to transfer? When should you transfer it? Does any transformation of the data need to be done? But there's technology out there to do it. So long story short, yes, there are ways to transfer data from 3DEXPERIENCE to MRP. A lot of the is very specific on the customer situation, you know, what ERP or MRP they have, and then what rules do they have. But you know, there's definitely ways to do it. But you know, there's no simple, oh, install this and then everything's up and working. You know, definitely services are involved to work out all the details. Another question: how does one redline item markups or physical products via an item markup? So I believe that's talking about how do you mark up data. I don't know if that's actually looking to redline like a drawing or a 3D model that you visualize it, or actually redline a BOM. I'm going to unmute Ed here, who wrote that question. All right, Ed, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So the basic question is, you know, we're inside using EC parts every day, and we use a new markup tool to modify the metadata and not bump the revision, especially when there's CAD involved. Works great. So as I review physical product and to move to it, where is my redline tool to, you know, modify the metadata of a physical product without bumping the revision?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't know if I have the answer. You can, based on your, and if anyone else here has an answer, please speak up. You can modify the based on your role in the UPS. You can modify the data without bumping the revision based on your role, but it's a modification. It's not like a red line where you can see the old versus the new. It just kind of overwrites it. Yeah. So
I mean, there's also again, it wasn't necessarily created for that purpose, Ed, but you know, it's a little bit like the software world. You have the ability to branch. I don't know if you've worked with that. You can duplicate and you can branch, which is
no branching. Simple changing of an attribute.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
No branching. I just want to emulate what we have in EC parts, just to change the metadata, and it pushes to ERP, and everybody's happy. There's no impact to the revision. And it's all documented via change management.
Yeah, I think maybe, Ed, would need to take that offline, but because to be honest, I'm not visualizing the EC part redlining piece. Not that it's there, not that it's not.
We never used the redline tool in the SO. It's amazing. It's a little bit facetious there for sure. Yeah, you use a change order and you redline the tool with the CA and so forth, and it works. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I proposed the same question to a Go engineer with hook into DS, and they're just scratching their heads. So, you know, as I said earlier, this is one of my reviews to move from my current environment, deck more or less, into the UPS world. This is one of the things we need, and there's some other ones for sure. You know. Okay, so my second question, Dave, if we want to get to that, UPS clients actually using multicad?
So there are UPS clients out there using multicad. However, how many of them are actually, for example, you know, mocking up a let's say an enclosure in SolidWorks, but then, you know, a circuit board in Inventor or an ECAD product, and then putting it all together in a BOM and doing it for real? is a good question. I can't actually give you an answer. Obviously, there's many demos out there that showing that scenario from Dassault, but actual real customers putting multi-CAD together in a BOM, I don't have any actual customers, but I mean, knowing how it works, it should work cleanly, but I can't tell you an actual customer doing it for real.
So you said BOM, you're talking about inside Innovia, not the CAD authoring tool, correct?
So inside Innovia, you can, and inside the BOM, if you had a parent SolidWorks BOM and children, a subassembly designed in Inventor, for example, or CATIA, you could in the BOM or that product release engineer or 3D product architect, you could link the Inventor or the SolidWorks subassembly to the CATIA master assembly. And then you can, in theory, visualize all that together through Innovia 3DEXPERIENCE. Now, certain CADs like CATIA, in theory,
that's my third. Yeah, so
open it up in the CAD system and see
I get that. I know PAU.
Yeah.
All right. I think I may have just dropped out.
Oh, you're still there, Ed.
I'm having connection issues.
Oh, we can hear you, Ed, by the way. So in theory, for some CADs, you can open the other CAD and it would visualize it too. But again, I don't have any customers doing it for real.
Yeah. But I think there are two questions there, I think, that Ed was asking. The product structure, which is driven from the CAD, which is what you're talking about, Mark. But then there is the engineering release, where they're just a physical product. I mean, 3DEXPERIENCE is a lot more, model-based, and so everything is integrated. It's not like the Designer Central, Ed, or Engineering Central, where the item in the CAD is separate. But in engineering release, you can have that full structure, whether it's driven from CAD or anything that is not CAD driven, and without any issues. I mean, we have one actually customer that is using ECAD as a Cadence and SolidWorks, and they have the BOMs engineering release without any issues. It's disconnected. They don't use the product architects, but they do have mixed BOMs when they send the order, right? So it's not an issue at all. Very nice, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I get all that. I know you can have mixed BOMs. I have experience using PAU and the other one Xen, which is cool. So real world is, Lippert, as you guys know, working with Kurt. Kurt's Inventor. There's some debate whether they stay Inventor, go to SolidWorks, cost, blah, blah, blah. So if they come into Innovia with Inventor, in the future, we're going to be UPS. And it's definitely going to be, they're going to want to share BOMs or share products in a similar BOM. My question to you is, someone with PAU creates a structure, and they include SolidWorks stuff, and they include Inventor stuff, which works. Visually, it's all cool. It's in there. But are they creating, quote unquote, an engineering BOM, an engineering parts list, or are they actually creating the manufacturing BOM?
So I would say that it's
what
a great question.
What is PAU structure? Is it the engineering
PAU
BOM
structure,
or the
I would say, is the engineering BOM.
Yeah, it's engineering BOM, right. It's definitely the view of the engineer, right? I mean, you may have assembly that will become just a phantom of something in manufacturing. So it's just because the engineer, it's easier for him to design, assemble it in top down. But in manufacturing, there's no meaning, right? So definitely engineering side. And if you look at the back end from a data model, it actually creates, the CAD, the 3D shape, but alongside the physical product, not the manufacturing item, which is a separate object in the system. Okay.
So now, that's we're on the same page. That's what I figured. So now there's two other ones from that, which goes to the kind of the first or second question. I forget. So now I have the structure, and I open that structure in, say, SolidWorks, which the structure consists of SolidWorks native files and Inventor native files. I'm assuming that'll work in SolidWorks somehow. Don't know. Haven't really tried that out. And the second question is, what does DS offer to me to move that engineering structure into an MBOM structure? Is it Dell Me now, or is it still part of the Innovia suite?
So I'm not saying this is the right solution. There's different solutions out there. There's MFN, which is a role application widget which basically allows you to map over the EBOM to the MBOM and build that new structure based on MBOM components.
Yeah.
And it's a widget, but in theory that widget is under the Delmia brand. Not that it matters. It's all part of the platform.
I get it. The key word you said, mapping. We've seen this back in 2016 when they actually had this inside Innovia. That mapping was dynamic. So if you change any engineering structure on the revision B, the mapping will stay, and it should, port those changes over to an MBOM based on mappings.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
again, it's always the details, but yes. Or if the EBOM changes, the MBOM is flagged that something has changed, so you need to go in and update the MBOM accordingly.
And that MFN is more what it's not really the term Innovia is not correct, but it's really the platform, or yes, it is Innovia R&D in the back, but essentially, and that goes up to the really MBOM and process. Okay, the Delmia native app, that's just a browser, right? Just a browser role.
So this is a web-based role.
It's a web, the manufacturing engineer. There is the Delmia native app. Okay, that comes on top of it that can do beyond the process and planning. You can do the floor shop manufacturing, you can visualize the process a lot more than you can do in the MFN, which is just a tree, essentially a widget, right? Yeah. So if you want to take it beyond the MBOM, so things like simulating the floor shop, bottlenecks, other various things more detailed on the BOM beyond just MBOM, that's beyond MFN, then you would need normally the Delmia native app, okay? And for the record, I'm not an expert in that, but we have plenty of experience with up to the point of the MBOM and process, which is the MFN. The Delmia itself is, a native app of itself, kind of like CATIA, and can do a lot more beyond just MBOM.
Yeah, no, I got you. Yep, we're on the same page. So now getting back to the SolidWorks thing, I open up this structure inside SolidWorks. Will I see the native inventor object inside SolidWorks assembly or no?
I've seen things with that with CATIA, where you had SolidWorks inside a CATIA tree, and they opened it up CATIA, and the SolidWorks models came in. I think I don't know about SolidWorks. I think with CATIA, if there was Inventor in it, you would see the dumb solid in there. It may work for SolidWorks too, because I know SolidWorks can do that, but I'm not sure if I can't say for sure.
Might show it as a step or convert it, but the bottom line is that you have to use the original authoring tool, Ed, to actually modify the data. So you can see the structure, you can do kind of like the positioning and everything as an architect without the CAD. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when you need to work on the specific component versus, whether it's Inventor, SolidWorks, or CATIA, you have to go to that piece and to that CAD and author that specific part of your model.
I get that if I want to modify the individual inventor piece, but I brought that inventor piece into my SolidWorks engineering BOM via PIU.
Yeah, we can double check. I think an import set either converts it temporarily or shows it through a step, some parasolid. I'm pretty sure it does open it, but it won't be editable. But we can double check on that. Like Mark said, we're more familiar with the CATIA on that side, but we can question to follow for SolidWorks. Yeah,
that would be a big selling point because as I said. We're debating whether to spend $750,000 to convert all their inventor to SolidWorks or spend $200K, just to bring them on inventor buying licenses in Innovia. And what the carrot is, in the future, we'll be able to have a one product of multi-CAD. That phrase, multi-CAD, the execs know. I don't know where they got it from. I didn't tell them that, but they got it. So now like, hey, can we do multi-CAD? I'm like, yeah, technically yes, but downstream processes may have to change.
Yeah.
So,
all right, not to always good points, but I'm going to move on to some other questions here. Are you observing of migration from on-premise to cloud? I'm chuckling a little bit because that is a key question we're getting. The answer is yes, a lot of customers are wanting to do that, are looking to do it. It's a lot easier said than done. So it really depends on how you're using your on-premise environment and then how you want to use the cloud environment. Obviously, for on-premise customers, there is a lot more ways to customize the data model, the P&O, the permissions, people and organizations, customizations in general. And the first step is making sure, just from a mapping or a process point of view, that you can, map over your processes. And I'm sure it's not going to be a one-to-one mapping from how you're using your on-prem to on-cloud. Assuming that works, there are technologies out there now today to, basically you'd be extracting your data from the on-prem and then using various import technologies to import it to the cloud. So, I'd say, I don't know of any customer who has done it yet. I'd say there's technically ways to do it, but almost the harder part is the process mapping piece. And I would say anyone who is there to do it, because there are reasons to go to the cloud. It would be a project. Again, there's no magic button or easy tool. I think it would be I guess, to be frank, an expensive and long project to do it, but it is doable, and there's probably an ROI, where you can justify doing it.
Well, and I would add to that, it's doable, but there's always some exclusion and exception. So two key things, there's a lot of, when you deal with migration, there's a lot of questions. But when you move from on-prem to the cloud, is one question is, are you coming from the old on-prem, meaning the design is the central generation of the Innovia, or the UPS, the more current one, which obviously is a lot easier. If you're in the designer and engineering, you have a much more bigger business transformation, because right now you don't have a separate, let's say, engineering BOM and the design BOM, right? So how do you? It's more, the UPS data model is a lot more model based, right? It's all one structure essentially. So there's a business transformation on top of the limitation in the tools, because some of the tools or technologies by Dassault, for example, are only supporting, let's say, CAD data, but not the engineering. So how do you consolidate? Again, this is where, like Mark said, a lot of heavy work and stuff that we've been looking with some customers, and it is very involved. And then the other question is what type of CAD? Because even if you're, let's say, in UPS, for example, certain CAD today, you cannot use some of the technologies like the RESTful APIs and things like that to upload data, CAD data that is supported by the connectors. So if you have SolidWorks, CATIA, V5, you cannot use APIs just to that. You have to use either existing technology by Dassault, and there are a few, but they're mainly around SolidWorks and CATIA. If you're coming with, we have a customer, let's say, using heavily Siemens Solid Edge or NX or Inventor, some of those technologies that Dassault provide do not really support those CAD yet. I know that it's in the pipe, so it might be a year, might be two, I don't know. And so you could be stuck. So if you're looking for this, plan your roadmap working with Dassault, or go through your partner or through us and check with Dassault, because for some CAD, depends on what type of CAD you use in your organization, the current technologies may not support it. So key question, there's a lot of them, but the key is, what type of on-prem are you coming from? Meaning, is it the UPS, the more current, or the older central, and what type of CAD are you looking to migrate? If it's no CAD, it's a lot easier, obviously, and there's still a lot of work around revisions and history and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I definitely consult with your partner, with us, because there's a lot of considerations.
Yeah, a lot of details to consider.
A lot of details. Oh, yes.
Don't when someone says yes, it can be done, right? If time, enough money and effort, anything can be done, but there is really a lot of details to be considered, and we've seen a lot of customers get burned because they haven't done their proper homework up front. So I'll leave it as that. Next question. How can you manage relationship attributes, like attributes on the parent-child link, like unit of measure or file number or reference designator, for on cloud? Can you do that, using PAU or XEN? So obviously you can manage quantity on the link. That Elon, didn't we see we can reference designation is there?
I don't believe it's. I haven't checked in anything recent thing in 2024. I know there was some discussion. Some of our customers last year had complained cloud ones, and the so did mention some methodology or solution. I haven't heard anything around either RefDes or find numbers. That's a good question. Something we can follow up.
So obviously you can extend the attributes on the physical product, on the item, the engineering item, but to extend attributes on the link or the relationship for on cloud, we'll have to look into and get back to you on that. It's a good question, as mentioned. Next question, for cloud, are you allowed to create custom web services for custom widgets? So to answer that, the second part is yes, you can create custom widgets. The first part is you cannot create any custom web services. So your custom widgets can only consume out of the box web services that come with the cloud. Now, there are many web services that come with the cloud today, you know, like creating a part, updating a part, linking parts, associating parts to change actions. You know, many of the operations you can do today, there are public web services for. I'm not going to say there's a public web service for everything, but there are for a lot of them. So your custom widget can make use of all the public web services, but if you need to do something and there is no public web service that allows you to do it and you're on cloud, you're kind of out of luck. There's nothing you can do. Now, if you're on premise, you could create that custom web service to be used, but on cloud, you can only make use of the public web services out there. Now, there's some private or non-public web services that in theory you could use, but they're not supported by Dassault. But if there is no web service period for what you want to do, you can't really do it for on-cloud customers.
Yeah, and we recently, this is recent information we heard. Mark and I attended the co-experience event by Dassault, and the R&D mentioned that there's not yet, but there's going to be more EKL or business logic, which is another technology that, you know, kind of openness in the platform. Right now, it's mainly client but native app related. So it's primarily CATIA and Delmia. There's very few to none, you know, cloud opening like events that you can use, like from not coming if you're not coming from a native app. And they did mention that they will be coming. They're not. It's not there yet, but they did mention they are working on server events basically. So that, you know, I'm interpreting that to more, a little bit more openness using EKL and business logic possibly on the web in hopefully coming releases or FDs, though it's not there right now. But it's, if you have a native app, then definitely you can use the business logic through the native app to extend and write events. And you know, what Mark mentioned is works for API is mainly if you're just working with a platform and the CAD connectors. And I also want to go back, Mark, just to with the quantities that the question was asked before. So going point, so the quantities are distinct based on the number of instances it's coming from the engineering. But I think there was mentioning about, you know, this also as far as the raw materials. Obviously, there is, a non-distinct quantities, right? You could have, and then the so built it so they have like 5 or 6 vectors, like volume, length, weight, various, where you can have, 1.5, 1.5, 3.2, things like that. And again, that costs various, I forgot it off the top of my head, but things like volume, length, weight, and things like that. So again, that all goes along with the distinct quantity from the BOM. But for that, to define those, you need that, again, that extra Zen on top of Zen, the specification manager role. So yeah, just wanted to mention that, Mark. Yeah.
Thanks. All right, another question. How long of a project would it take to migrate a SolidWorks PDM database to the platform? So I would say it really depends. I don't know if we can give you an accurate answer. It really depends on SolidWorks PDM, what data are they managing in SolidWorks PDM, how much data they have managed in PDM, and then, what are their work processes and how do those work processes map to the platform? So a lot of that will decide what's involved in the migration. And then another aspect is how clean the SolidWorks PDM or the SolidWorks data is. Is there bad links, bad references, missing metadata, etc.? But I would say for a mid-size, small to mid-size customer using PDM going to the platform, it's probably like a 3 to 5 month, migration project. By the time you configure everything, run a couple test cycles and then do the final production migration, it's probably, a 3 to 5 month timeline, not billable time type of project. All right, so we are at 11:40, so technically we only have 20 minutes left of the presentation. Again, please keep the questions coming. I mean, these are great conversation pieces, and please feel free to chime in. I'll briefly go through the other slides though, unless, until we have new questions. So maybe I went here first. So topic 2, collaboration best practices. There's always discussion around how to set up security in the platform. How do I set up, a secure space so I could have, collaboration with a supplier or a vendor. If I'm dealing with ITAR or military data, how can I secure that in a way where for example, non-US citizens can access some of the data, but not access, the ITAR secure data. So, again, it's all about mapping your business processes to the platform, but the platform, have, various tools to do that. First one is, what is the process? Do you need to give, users or suppliers only read-only access? Are you going to do joint design of the data? Are you going to exchange data between you and, your external person? Are we talking about internal collaboration? There's different ways. But through 3DEXPERIENCE, they have what's considered a security vector, which controls your role based on the organization and the collaborative space you logged into. So an organization could be like, different groups within your organization, and collaborative spaces could be like different projects you have going on within your company. And then the role is, what are you doing? Are you creating data? Are you viewing data? Are you approving data? Is kind of like the role. And then, based on what your security requirements are, there's kind of different tools you can use within the system to set up that security, whether it's like bookmarks, which are kind of like folders. You can share data specifically to users that don't belong to the security vector the data belongs to, so they can see it. We have restricted roles, so users can only explicitly see data that they are a member of or is shared with. And then there's IP security, where you can do the ITAR, security for, for data that needs to be, secured at a government level, or you have a top secret project, et cetera. There's an extra layer of security and a module that can be used to put that on. So I kind of went through this rather quickly, but point being is, setting up security and setting up collaboration is always a topic that you need to spend time on, and you need to review what you need and then figure out the best way to handle that within the platform. A new question came up. Do you see customers, changing the platform or staying on SolidWorks PDM? We have a couple customers. Again, it depends. Some customers have the platform already, and for example, purchased a company that has PDM, and in their case, they are migrating from the purchased PDM company to their enterprise, solution, which is running the platform. So yes, our customers that just have SolidWorks PM moving to the platform, I haven't seen many yet, but based on their needs, there's reasons to do it, and there's ways to do it. So this goes back to the question about widgets and data model customizations. Again, before anyone customize anything within the platform, really you need to assess if it's needed. You got to assess the pros and cons and the ROI. So, there's customers out there that say, oh, we want to be completely out of the box. And I don't necessarily agree with that statement. I think there are times and places to customize where it can really make you as the company more efficient. And there's definitely true ROIs that can be set based on doing a customization. And if the customization is done properly, it should not affect upgrades or anything else like that. But you gotta weigh it whether you need it or not, and weigh the pros and cons and the ROI. There's different ways to customize the platform. For on-cloud customers, there's the collaboration space control center where you can add attributes, you can control lifecycle rules, you can control permissions, you can control mapping between CAD and the platform, you can control part numbering. There's a lot of different controls where you can, configure the system and make it configurable to your needs. For on-premise customers, there's a TXO app, which actually lets you extend the data model and let you create, different types or subtypes within the system. So, for example, a document could be subtyped to be a manufacturing document or a purchasing document, etc., and have different properties or attributes around it. So TXO lets you perform data model customizations. And then there's customization technologies where you can develop web services or make use of public web services. There's EKL, which is mainly used around customizing the native client like CATIA or Delmia that Elon was referring to. For on-premise customers, you can incorporate triggers and make use of Java code, within a trigger to do something. Widgets are composed of web services, which are more GUI and front-end stuff. And again, we could probably have a whole topic on customization, but this is a high-level overview. Yeah.
TXO is the actual license trigram, but I think the name is data model administration or data model customization, something like that. That's just the trigram name. Yeah,
going back to collaborative spaces, here a question came up: is there a rule of thumb to the number of collaborative spaces in Innovia? So that's a good question. So because of how security works and how searching works, the more collaborative spaces you have, the more quote unquote security vectors you have, and the more of those you have, the system can have some performance impacts. So is there a rule of thumb for the number of collaborative spaces? This is something we've asked so many times and never got a straightforward answer. Always the answer is, try not to have too many collaborative spaces. But I was just at the co-conference last week, and the topic came up, and one of the guys said, well, 1,000 is too many. So is 100 too many? I would say, probably wouldn't try to have more than 100, but I think 100 or less is probably safe. But there's no exact science, and I can't give you an exact answer. And then it's different for on cloud versus on premise. So on premise, you're confined to your hardware that you have, to compute everything. On cloud, it's the Dassault has its whole, cloud infrastructure behind it. So, there's in theory more power to handle it, but I'm sure if you had too many in your cloud tenant, there could be issues too. So that's about number of collab spaces to have.
It's also, from what I learned, depends who you're asking this. So if you ask R&D or more salespeople, they'll tell you, I could go to 100 or 10, scale of 10s, which is ridiculous in my experience. If you have a lot of data, that will be a major, with all the access lists, it will be a major killer. Support would tell you maybe up to 10, it really depends who you ask. I think that if you have more than few, and really it's driven from a business approach. I mean, don't use collab spaces projects or things like that, like maybe you had in legacy system like Smart Team or PDM or project management, because that's not the intent. I would say a few, less than 10, because it definitely has impacts on performance and requires a lot more resources on the indexing side with all the additional access lists and things like that. Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the last topic here, the last 10 minutes. So data migration, that kind of came up as well. So again, you need to understand, where you're migrating to. Are you going to do the public cloud or on-premise to public cloud? All that will depend on what migration technology to use. It's very important to assess the data you have, make sure it's clean data, really understand what data you're using today and how you're using it. Key is that mapping exercise, mapping how the data is going to be mapped over, but more importantly, how your processes are going to be mapped over to 3DEXPERIENCE. It's never a one-to-one mapping, and 3DEXPERIENCE behaves in certain ways, and I'm sure your legacy system behaves in certain ways and they behave differently. So it's very key to map your processes over first, and then that will dictate how you want to map your data over. Depending on what system you're coming from and where you're going, whether public cloud or on-premise, there's different technologies and different ways to migrate the data. Here's a screenshot of a Smart Team to 3DEXPERIENCE migration technology using the XPDM adapter for CATIA and powered by migrations. But there's different technologies out there depending on your scenarios, and of course we could help you identify what's the best technology and how to implement it. And then key is for any migration is making sure you do your proper testing and validation. Making sure you document your various user scenarios and you test those scenarios. No migration's done right the first time. There will be issues and you'll need to fix issues and redo the migration. So making sure you have a way to repeat that migration testing or process until you get it right. And don't take testing and validation lightly. Again, we've seen customers get burned where they say, oh, we tested everything works great. They do a production migration and then find out key things don't work because they never tested it. So, and then you're in a world of hurt when you have, production data in a system and you can't use it. So, so very key to have a good testing and validation plan, and you execute that plan and get sign off on the business before going live.
And really, the underlying rule is understand the system very well, because it's all driven from change, possibly transformation, from the way you used to work or the previous data model. So it's important that you are very involved in this, whether you are the end customer or a partner, and not just, hey, you company XYZ go and migrate our data and let them run with it. It's very, very important to really want and understand the data, the transformation from the business down to the data model.
I mean, for example, PDM, SolidWorks PDM, we had a couple of questions about, behaves different than 3DEXPERIENCE. So don't expect to just migrate the data and then customers will start using the system as they used PDM. They behave differently, and you really need to go through that exercise, I do this in PDM, and then say, this is how I'm going to do it in 3DEXPERIENCE, and make sure everything works from a process point of view, whether it's, creating data, assigning a part number, making a change, searching for a part, whatever it may be, identify those processes, validate them, and then that will dictate how you design and design the system and then migrate the data into the system. And yes, this takes a lot of training for the key stakeholders using 3DEXPERIENCE. And we're here to answer any more questions. Feel free to email us, contact us. We can do another webinar or roundtable on any topic. So please provide your feedback. Hopefully that you found this useful. But if there are certain topics you want to talk about or specific things we didn't answer, please reach out to us. Here are a couple links if you're interested. If you want to sign up for our newsletter, check out our blog. We have a lot of good YouTube videos out there. So, feel free to sign up for our information. And with that, thank you very much. Here's my contact information. We'd love to get feedback if you found this roundtable useful or other topics you would like to discuss. So, we definitely look at you as your partner in implementing and using 3DEXPERIENCE. So if there's anything we can help with, or even just have a general conversation around, we would be happy to do that. So feel free to use us as a tool as well to help you with implementing 3DEXPERIENCE. But with that, I'm going to say thank you, and unless anyone else has any other questions, we will end this webinar. I will, unless I hear any more questions in the next 10, 20 seconds, I will close the webinar. But thank you very much and have a great day.